Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another session of Exploration Tech, discussing leveraging a customer advisory board for growth. My name is Jared Hackbart. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing here at Brilliance, and I feel like a broken record at times, but how can you not be excited when you have a guest like Julian Dawkins to join us from Episerver to talk about this really fascinating topic? I'm going to pass to Lori, introduce herself, and we'll go from there.
Yes, this is going to be a great conversation today. A little bit about me and about Brilliance. I started Brilliance more than 20 years ago. My background's in computer electrical engineering. I went to school at Purdue, and through an internship, I ended up at NASA Johnson Space Center, where I eventually worked as a flight controller for the Space Shuttle program. I ended up meeting my husband there. He also was an engineer, worked as a flight controller at NASA, and eventually he went to work for Rockwell Automation, and we ended up relocating to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I was trying to figure out what could be as cool as space. That was in 1998, and I decided to start a web development company. And it's been so much fun. My husband actually left his job at Rockwell 9 years ago, and now he leads our development team. And we have grown as an organization. We're a team of 17, made the Inc. 5000 last year, and we focus on web development for manufacturers and distributors. And as a part of that journey, we became Episerver partners back in 2014. And I had the honor of meeting Julian along that way as a part of our partnership with Episerver. One of the things I love about Episerver is their commitment to making customers' lives easier and really understanding how they improve customers' ability to realize the needs they have for digital. And so Julian and I ended up talking about customer advisory boards in a conversation we had a few years back when I was in the process of setting up a customer advisory board for Brilliance. And so I'm just really excited that we get to hear from him and his expertise around what that process has been like for Episerver and for him. And so Julian, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm Julian Dawkins. I'm based in London, probably tough in the accent. And I've been with Episerver for around 2.5 years. I mainly concentrate on our customer centricity and our customer network. So, speaking directly with our customers, finding out their pain points, their needs, and relating that back into the business when it comes to our product roadmap, as well as turning it into really cool marketing material for our prospects and for newbies as well that we're looking at getting on board. So I'm very fortunate that I get to spend a lot of time with different customers from a diverse set of industries, etc. as well. So very fortunate to be here with you guys today and talk about our customer advisory board. And just for a touch of reference as well, obviously you guys Brilliance get to work with us at Epi. And we're lucky enough to be one of the highest rated digital experience platforms within the market as well. So very fortunate to have that title, if you like.
Absolutely. There's a reason why we chose to work with Episerver, many reasons, and that's certainly one of them. All right, so let's dive into the topic at hand here. Let's start with a high-level question, Julian. So why would you say a customer advisory board is a valuable tool?
Yeah, great question to start off with. And yeah, you're right, so broad that there's so many different ways in which you can define what a customer advisory board is, the importance of it. For me, when it comes to Episerver, I find it really valuable because we're serving so many different, like I said, so many different diverse industries, and it's not only those industries we're serving, but also their own end users, right? So consumers, as well as elderly people, business users of high net worth, people who are in vulnerable parts of our society, residents, public service users. So it's very important that you are able to dissect your customer base, really extract that true rich value from them for it to influence the decision making that you make on a blue sky scale of things, right down to that nitty gritty. What are we doing today in order to make our customers' lives better? So it's extremely important that what we bring to the forefront, how we build our products, how we create our culture within our business, attract the right talent as well. We have to make sure that we're doing that as per our customer communities. And the customer advisory board is a very key strategic route to making sure that we realize that. So yeah, it's extremely paramount to what we do, and yeah, it's extremely important to any business that wants to be a customer-led organization. You know, and there's many different ways. Your business is sales-led, product-led, etc. But yeah, if you want to have at least an aspect where your customers, you know, have a say in what it is that you do, then a customer advisory board is a massive benefit to approaching it.
Yeah, I know for us, we have found the feedback that we've gotten from it to be so valuable for us in terms of our plans, and then also hearing that it's valuable for our customers too, which is such a neat experience to see that it's like mutually beneficial. So
Absolutely, yeah. There's benefits on both sides to have. You know, I can say from a selfish part, from Episerver, we'll get all this good stuff, but at the same time, our customers, there's so much for them to, you know, extract as well.
As far as your customer advisory board, when it comes to selecting members, how do you guys go about approaching that?
Yeah, this is a key challenge that we've been kind of scratching our head over for the last few years, actually, because each time we want to either expand the cab or have a special cab that per region, for example, we always say, well, how are we going to do it in the most you know, broad but inclusive way as well? Because we need to not overstretch numbers. You know, we want to aim for a nice, clean number. We aim for around 12, 15, the max customers in our customer advisory board. But when it goes about in selecting customers, we like to dissect and categorize via, right, okay, first, the dynamics of that business. What industries really represent who we serve? Yeah, let's try and rattle that down and have a customer from each of those sectors. Business market cap, for example. You know, we want to have billion plus customers in there, but then again, we want to have customers have a revenue of, you know, $50 million as well. So we select one from each of those areas. We also look at the makeup and build of that customer set as well. So we say it's almost as if we're writing out a really good profile of what we'd like to have and saying, okay, who meets this criteria? And once we've identified who meets that criteria, who would be best suited to join our cab based off of that? Yeah. So once we've identified that, we've matched it against our profile, and we're happy to go. We then start having internal discussions within the business. Account managers are drawn in, customer success teams are drawn in, our solution architects are drawn in, everyone who's going to have a valuable input. And we start saying, this is what we'd really like. Here's our proposal. Let's start debating. You know, why should this person, this customer, go in ahead of another one? And at the same time, my role is to just act as that gauge that says, okay, I'm going to question you on this. Is this a diverse enough crowd? And what I mean by that is, are we representative of who we serve? Are there enough women there? Yeah. Are we going to get enough diverse, dynamic thoughts within this group, this cohort of customer that will really change the way that we do things? Are we just going to be hearing the same thing out of this customer base, out of this customer advisory board? If so, okay, let's change it. How are we going to change it? Let's look at customers in a different territory. Let's look at customers who are actually quite new to us, so haven't been live on Episerver for that long, but conversations that we have, we know that they're going to bring something new to the table. So just to run back a little bit, it's having that profile, determining what's important to you, what characteristics are important, and then, you know, just tick boxing against that with a list of customers, reiterating that within the business, getting different voices, different opinions, and yeah, from there you'll have a strong cohort of prospects for your customer advisory board.
Yeah, what I love about that idea is that it's not necessarily of like who's spending the most money with you. You're looking for who can give you valuable input from different segments and experiences that they're having with Episerver. I know for Brilliance, when we look at who's on our customer advisory board, we're thinking about leaders that we know that we feel it can give us insight into certain areas, and also representing like different roles. Like sometimes it's IT or marketing or like a COO or like the different types of roles that we feel like are important for us. we're a much smaller organization, but like I think some of the same things are true in terms of.
Yeah, and absolutely, you hit on one point there, which is the role that they play.
Yeah.
Part of that profile set that we set out, what stature do we want them to be within the business, and we definitely need people who are influential movers within the business, who have a say on the final outcome of their own business practice as well. So yeah, really important point you mentioned as well. Yeah.
When Lori references, we're smaller clearly, and Episerver is much larger. You guys have been busy over at Episerver acquiring new businesses. How has that affected your customer advisory board, and are you guys learning new things as you bring on these new businesses?
Yeah, when we acquired Insight just around a year ago, just before that, actually, it's been about 14 months, something like that. And when we learned about the business practice and when it came to the customer advisory board, we really thought we were going to come to the table and be like, guys, let's hear about your side. Okay, cool. This is how we've been doing it. This is the way it's been. We were the ones taking notes, like, we learned a thing or two. And it was fantastic because we had acquired a company that had an extremely engaged customer advisory board, which was fantastic to hear. They were truly aligned. It was very structured, yet agile, and the feedback you could see how it's relayed, I should say, back into the business. Fantastic. So there's been so much to learn, and again, it comes with challenges, right? How do we redefine ourselves as one business with a customer advisory board? So we took the decision actually to, with Insight that we acquired, we said, you carry on with your cap, you carry on actually with that cohort of customers that you have. And what we're going to do is we're going to blueprint it. We're going to take the best practice that you've been applying to the market as Episerver. We're going to learn more about it, and we're going to apply it to a separately run cab, if you like. So that was that kind of disrupted our thinking, because again we thought, right, we just have to join it up and we have to bring it into the existing phase, etc. But no, we said, wow, we'll learn a thing or two. We can't touch it. We've got to let it be as is. And yeah, that was a real turning point for us.
So Julian, how do you get customers to say yes when you're inviting them onto the customer advisory board?
Yeah, good question. I mean, that's something that can be easily overlooked. You come up with your profile, you've had the internal discussions, you said, here's the names, done all the internal work. Hey, listen, come join our customer advisory board. Why wouldn't you? And you can be kind of stunned when people are like, what's in it for me? What's in it for you? This is a fantastic opportunity. You really have to illustrate the point, really illustrate the value, the benefits that this customer is going to get. If you don't sell it in enough, then people won't buy in as much. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So what we do is we do the invite on two parts, if you like. First, there's a mail that's sent out. In some previous occasions, we've done like a virtual but handwritten letter from our previous CMO, detailing personally why they'd like them to be part of the cab. So each letter was different.
Wow.
Yeah, which is really nice, and that's sent on to our prospect cab members. And then the phase 2 of that is to say, hey, here's the other customers part of the cab. This is what we believe that you'll get out of it. Access to our ELT, access to journalists, to media, to different publications to highlight your own profile, listing out these benefits. That coupled with the personal approach from an executive in the business, that really helps engage people, understand what presence we're trying to have with them, and we put in phone calls if need be, if there's any questions they want to follow up on. What we've tried recently, as most recent as mid part of 2020, was the first part being like a video intro. You know, what is the cab? Why we'd love for them to be on board, and yeah, that would be followed up by CEO. So yeah, just that kind of more direct, personable approach. That's how we try and get customers on board, coupled again with, you know, really illustrating what those benefits are that they get out of it.
You know, our goal in this conversation is not only to educate people on, you know, the value of a customer advisory board, but to hopefully provide them something that they can walk away with and look into taking maybe some potential steps on how they can drive this opportunity. So do you have any tips that you would give organizations who specifically don't have a customer advisory board today?
Yeah, I would turn around to them and say, what's the purpose? What's the purpose? Because as a business, you have to have an appetite for this customer advisory board. With the way that 2020 has gone, it would be very easy for businesses to turn around and say, I haven't got time for that. Or that's nice to have, we'll review it at another time. If that's the first inkling you're getting, customer advisory board shouldn't have been on your agenda in the first place.
Right.
Because it has to be driven by key influential people within your business to uphold it, to give it the purpose it deserves. So yeah, what is its purpose? What is it going to bring to you as a business? Is it actually a product council that you need? Which is different from a customer advisory board, because it's more focused on the nitty gritty, the everyday product. You know, test this product, what do you think? Give us your feedback. Rather than, let's have a professional but informal conversation about where your business is going, how Episerver can help you, why we should be building a long-term partnership, which is more customer advisory board conversation dialogue, right? So yeah, as a business, what is the purpose? And from there, identify the right people within your business who can who can help run the program, if you like. Yeah, have you got that resource existing? Do you need to hire somebody else as a program manager to help run it? Can you empower somebody within your business to add it onto the everyday as a project to also run? You know, it's a great way to empower others within your business who are keen to put a hand up to say, hey, I'd love to help, I'd love to get involved. You know, and I sit in product marketing. I have other responsibilities within my role. Somebody in finance who doesn't get face time with a customer, somebody in IT who doesn't get face time with a customer, they can also do this role. They can also program manage it. But yeah, I would say to businesses that, what's the purpose? What do you believe it's going to bring to you? And have you got the appetite for it? Because it's all good and well sitting down with your customers, having that dialogue and thinking, oh, that's great. Oh, wow, that's fantastic insight there. And then nothing happens.
Yeah.
It's letters on a page, right? And then you think, you rewind and you think, we didn't do anything with that. If you have the drive, if your business has the drive to take on board this information, do something with it, customer advisory board should be sought. And yeah, I think it's worth for businesses to look and say, have we done something similar before? Because customer advisory boards have a lot more definition around it now. So maybe you have done something previously before. You can take learnings from, if there was a product council, for example, you know, take who was involved in that. Maybe we can invite them back and have wider dialogue about business strategy. So yeah, these are the kind of points that businesses should be evaluating.
That's great advice. And I think it's what it makes me think about is how, like in this last year, especially, I feel like so many businesses are pivoting or trying to figure out what they need, how they need to respond to changes in the market. And I know for Brilliance, like we had like several ideas of like, here are some things we can do this year and maybe some new partnerships we should be forming, and those are things that I brought to the customer advisory board. And in some cases they were like, yeah, I don't know that would be helpful actually. You know, how valuable is that feedback before you go pour your time and energy into something? And also to your point, Julian, about just hearing their stories, getting to hear from them, like what are their challenges and like where are they at, and then having some sense of like, oh, some of those challenges we can meet, or you know, or starting to innovate around like how is it that we could play a part in making their lives easier. So yeah, but you're right, an organization has to have that mindset that's what they want and they're going to use it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You already mentioned this in a part, but tell us more about how diversity, equity, and inclusion and that work that you're doing and how it relates to the customer advisory board.
Absolutely. So again, touching back to that earlier point about who Episerver serves, right? Our customer base, obviously, but also their end users. So they already are serving people of many diverse backgrounds. They're serving people, consumers around the world. They're serving vulnerable members of society around the world for different purposes. What we have to do is, in order to make sure that we are doing the best that we can for our customers, we do the best for our own customers. So what we want to do is make sure we have a cohort of customers that really reflect people that they're serving, right? How we try and do that is is by saying, okay, do we have here a makeup of people within their businesses? So again, ticking those boxes, influential, got appetite for change, have that mindset what you just mentioned as well. Like, do we have those people? How do they look together? Are we going to walk into a room and instantly know we're going to have different inputs, different insights here? Or do we walk into a room and think, right, we're going to hear the same thing 12 times over? Now, when I say hear the same thing 12 times over, obviously you're going to get different variations, which will be insightful, be impactful, but not as valuable as if it were a really diverse set of customers. Also, it means for us as a business, we can go out to our market knowing that we have a robust, accounted for proposition for the market, for end users, because our own customer advisory board is made up of those different subsets.
Yeah.
That's really valuable because it means that we are better serving our customer community. So a diverse customer set is extremely meaningful to us.
I was in a conversation with a CEO roundtable group that I meet with, and one of the questions that came up was, do you ever run into situations where you have competitors on your customer advisory board, and like, how do you handle that?
Yeah,
so
most definitely we do. And I remember one time, and it was my own bad, because we were having a session. We were having really good dialogue, and I asked quite intimate question about revenues. Now, the cab is behind closed doors, so what's said in cab stays in cab, if you like, right? And what I've done is, ask that intimate question about revenues. Ask, how is this going to affect your PBT, your profit before tax? Some decisions that they've been making. And that customer was a bit, skirting around the question. And this person who was speaking was a very direct person, says Northern Europe, it's the way of doing things, right? Very direct. I thought, why are we getting this kind of answer? What's going on? It was only later on that I realized their North American counterpart is from the same industry, is in that room. And that North American counterpart, when you do a bit of research, is looking at opening stores in Europe, actually. So they're stepping on toes. And to talk about sensitive information like that was, if I realized I wouldn't have done it. But to counteract that, I think it's about keeping the dialogue almost like as you could, like, or just keep it like colorblind, so you can't attribute certain things to certain companies. So you don't talk too deep about finances, because there may well be a competitor or an emerging competitor in that room. However, you do keep it professional. You do make it be known that at the end of the day, this information isn't for your own commercial, espionage, your own purposes. And we remind them of the rules that, if this were more of an informal setting, most likely you're going to be surrounded by people in your industry, your investors, your counterparts. You're going to naturally discuss certain things, but
Right.
you're going to be sensitive with it as well. You're not going to go back and present it to your board based off the conversation that you've had. So yeah, we keep it professional, we keep it polite, and we remind people that what's said shouldn't really be taken away for those circumstances.
Yeah,
I think those are some good guidelines to follow. When it comes to some more of the specific, as someone is looking to round out this platform, how many people would you recommend, or how many people should people consider having on their customer advisory board?
Yeah, good question. I mean, when I inherited the customer advisory board, we had something like 50 customers, 50 individuals, and I think it represented about 40, 45 companies in our customer advisory board. It's a lot, right? And it was really, yeah. And we had a situation where administering it just wasn't working as such, right? The magic number for us now, around 12. If we have 10, great. We have 15, it's still great. So it's manageable, right? It's best to do it that way. As we grow as an organization, we're going to have to ask ourselves questions. Do we break it down per region? Do we break it down by profile type? Do we break it down by how long they've been with Episerver, for example? All these different considerations come in. However, what we do know is that the amount of people that we have in a cohort, in a group, should be we say like 10 plus or minus 2. Around that should be nice.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's a good group of people to have a conversation to facilitate good conversation. When you have a much larger group, are there ways that you facilitate that conversation, or tools that you use, or?
Yeah, so we use whatever size group really. What we use is like matrix scoring, right? So the product team, just before the call, we usually have a call, like virtual call. We used to have meetups beforehand, obviously, but we would have the product team would create like a baseline document for the customer advisory board, and the CAB would receive this before the call, and they will have from the product team, different details relevant to what they were going to hear during the meeting, and it will be given to them a couple days beforehand, and it's kind of like homework. It would be homework for the CAB members to do, and they'll politely be asked, you've got 2 weeks to discuss it within your own teams and feedback to us. And once we get that form back, it would be a really good way, a really good tool of scoring, ranking different product features, different like go-to-markets, different branding exercises that we're doing that will help influence business decisions. So this was more tactical, if you like. It's a tactical tool that we use, whereas during the meeting as such, it's more strategic. So we're talking more about the outcome of the matrix report, what it means actually to the business. So we have a lot of dialogue that way, it's a really good tool to use, because it means that we can, one, facilitate conversations straight away, and it also means that we have a good grounding of where our customers sit. We've got tangible grounding of where our customers sit. So you can see quite easily whether you have a big group, a small group, what's the low-hanging fruit that we can do tomorrow and it'd be really valuable, and what are the things that we just completely need to pop to one side and it can build up some dust. But that's what we use.
That's really good. I love that. I need to put that to use in our customer advisory board. You're giving me homework, Julian. And I think I remember you telling me that you also have a Slack group that you use with your, is that right? I know we
Yeah,
use
that's right.
Microsoft Teams with our customer advisory board to facilitate, to create some ability to communicate there too.
At the beginning of the conversation, you referenced when we were talking about the value of a customer advisory board, being that customer-led organization was what you were really hitting on. As you dive further into that and you start talking about what topics you want to cover with your customer advisory board, how do you make those decisions? Because I'm sure you could take that in a million different ways.
Yeah, million different ways, and you're so right. It's about ratifying it down and saying, okay, how should we facilitate this dialogue, right? So what we like to do is cheeky approach, but we go one-to-one to each of the customers, or at least a good proportion of our customers in the cab, and say, this is what we're thinking. How does that reflect on you? Is that something that you want to explore more, or do you think it's something that you shy away from? We build that on a one-to-one basis, get loads of different reports in, and that helps facilitate, right, that helps with our agenda. So when we do bring it up, we know people already are warm to it, right? So that's a good way of getting agenda setting. Helps with the topics, helps what we're going to talk about. Also, we kind of box off some topics around what are the key business updates that we should share exclusively with this customer community. So we get cascaded messages from our CEO, Alex Axberger, who may say, there's a new initiative happening. We need to tell the cab about this. We may get our Chief Product Officer, Justin Annabit, who says, we're launching something new. Cab need to know about this. And this is all well before it's released to the general marketplace. So it's kind of innate to our thinking when we're building new products, when we've got new initiatives going on. When are we planning to sell our cab members? It has to be a priority, right? And that helps build out what the topics are that we talk about. First updates, this is what's going on with us. Yeah, cool. We want you guys to be first to know. We also have that other piece. We've spoken to a few of you. You mentioned A, B, and C are really important. Let's talk about that. We know it's going to be apparent to everybody. After that, we also give, in a run-up to a cab meeting, we give them a platform to share different pieces that they might want to talk about. We give them an open space to talk about a success story, talk about a really good initiative that they've done recently that utilizes Episerver, or just digital and as a practice in total. It doesn't have to be specific to us. And we give them that forum. That is how we go around deciding which topics to talk about. And there's always a plethora of different things we'd like to mention, but again, it's my role to kind of beat that down, chop it in places, and present something that's going to be deliverable.
This is so great. I so value all the feedback that you've given us, Julian. So I'm curious, how did you get into working with customer advisory boards in the first place?
Yeah, so before my time at Episerver, I used to work for a company called Sodexo, and they're absolutely massive. They are like the 19th largest employer in the world, I believe, largest overseas French company as well. Great place to work as well. And they had an initiative which was global called Clients for Life, in which key accounts that Sodexo held, people would, as well as their normal jobs, people would go in as client relations officers, interview a customer, find out how the account is as an impartial voice. Again, that's why it's really important that it could be anyone in your business. I was, again, sitting in marketing, but we had clients, representatives in finance, in operations, who could go to all these key accounts like NASO, FIFA, all these really cool international names, find out how the account is, where it's sitting right now, and then feedback to the business, make it right. Even if everything was great, how can we make it right? It was your role to make things even better. And it's a really good side project. And when I was fortunate enough to get an Episerver role, they mentioned about the customer advisory board, which I wasn't apparent to. I didn't really have any background about it, but I did compare it to the Clients for Life initiative, going in as an impartial voice from that company. So yeah, you're from that company, but you're not biased in any way. Really extracting that rich insight, scribbling down how, strategically, how can you take this insight and make it bloom within the business? How are you going to make things last? And yeah, it just seemed a real kind of natural thing for me to take over. And I was really pleased when I was asked to look after it. So yeah, since then, we've had our cab, we've got a different iteration coming up very soon, as you can imagine, with the different businesses coming in, etc. But yeah, we're really looking forward to creating a new cab. We have a dedicated project team for it as well, which I'm really proud to say. So yeah, it's certainly gonna get even better, and we're gonna learn from the likes of yourselves as well. Questioning you about your own cab as well. So yeah,
that's great.
That's great. That's where we see it going.
That's great. Well, I know we ran a little over on our time, but the conversation is so good, I didn't want to stop it. I think maybe one more question that would be good to hit before we close is what frequency and how long are those meetings?
Yeah, good question. So I spoke to Brian Lund, who's a VP of Customer Success at Episerver, and he gave a really good response because he was holding the Insight cab, which was really successful. And he said to me that the formats over the years have somewhat changed, but most recently they settled on an annual cab. So they had an annual cab once a year, which was a day and a half, and they backed those up with 3 quarterly cab meetings for the rest of the year, which were around 1.5 hours as opposed to 1.5 days for the yearly meeting. And then they had a separate cab meeting at the Engage event, so a bit like our Ascend event that we have, big really marquee event showcasing all of our good stuff. Yeah, so they had to have an Engage event where they especially invite cab members to before the main show starts to grab a drink, have a bit of face-to-face conversation as well. So that's definitely how we do it. How we're going to approach it is most likely same kind of format, once a year, big meeting, and then those will be backed up by quarterly few hours catch-ups and updates with our team. Yeah.
This conversation is so good.
It really was, and we really appreciate you, Julian, taking time to sit down with us and go through this content in more detail. I'm positive that people walked away with some great ideas on how they can leverage a customer advisory board themselves. If you are interested, again, in learning more about customer advisory boards, we'd be happy to have those conversations. Also, as mentioned at the beginning, please give us a follow on LinkedIn, both Brilliance, Julian, Episerver, and we appreciate your time. We'll be following up with the recording shortly. Thank you, Julian.
Yes,
thank you, Steve. Thank you, team, so much for having me. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Take care, everybody.